Welcome everyone to the Inspirational Businesswoman Show, where you know it's my passion and my purpose to bring you a gold mine of inspirational tips, strategies, and advice to help you grow your business from inspirational businesswomen in the know. And today we're going to be talking to Amy Ostreicher, who is going to tell you a lot about struggle and detours. We're going to be focusing on from coma to career, cultivating creativity. So hold on to your hats. We'll be getting started right after the preview. Welcome everyone to the Inspirational Businesswoman Show. I'm Virginia Parsons, your Hangout mentor and your host. And I love bringing you inspirational businesswomen who can uplift you, provide you with great strategies and entrepreneurial ideas to help you grow your business. And I have a wonderful gal here today. You already saw the introduction, or the preview as I call it, about Amy. And I'm going to bring her on in just a moment. I'll tell you, she's jumped through hoops to be here today. There is a great big storm on the East Coast, a windstorm that's making signals very, very difficult. And she, being the creative woman that she is, has found a way to join us. So I'm so thrilled that she could be here. Now, first, I just want to thank you all for being here, because I know your time is valuable. And I appreciate you taking the time to join us today. Okay, so listen, I want to let you know that I have a brand new assessment. That's right. It's a Hangout and live stream marketing assessment that you can use to brand, grow, and market your own business. And if you haven't taken that assessment yet, you need to. It only takes a couple moments. And you can get it by going to texting the word success to 775-800-4179. So please take advantage of that. I'm having more and more people that are taking advantage of the Shine Strategies session that they receive as a result of taking this assessment. And believe me, that strategy session alone is so worth it, because we really dig into your business and give you some clarity on how you can really take advantage of these live stream platforms. So go ahead and take advantage of that assessment if you haven't done so already. Thank you all for being here. I know that your time is valuable. I know you're going to find today's program especially insightful, inspirational, and uplifting. So let me get on to that. We have to unmute Amy here for just a moment. So Amy, actually, I think you'll have to unmute yourself as I bring the introduction in. See if you can get yourself unmuted. I will go ahead. There you go. Great. Okay, just a moment. Let me give you a good formal introduction.
Sure.
All right. Today we're talking to Amy about a huge, huge life experience, from coma to career, cultivating creativity. Now, the topics are really valuable. It's going to be about transforming adversity into creative growth. And wait till you hear what this lady has been through already in her young life. It will so inspire you to see how she came out the other side. Then we're going to be talking about the 4 hardcore skills to resilience. Well, Amy knows all about that, and she's going to share that with you today. Finally, how to love your detours. She's going to explain what that means, and to achieve lofty goals. So we're thrilled to have you here, Amy. Just say hi to everyone.
Thanks for having me. Excited to be here.
Look at this gal. She's got a hat on. I guess they're having quite a blizzard out.
Yeah, it's not so fun right now.
Out in Connecticut. She's in her house, finally able to get a signal, although it was very difficult. She had to be very creative. She ended up actually having to come in on your phone. Correct, Amy?
I am.
And that's why you see a different screen for her. But we've got her here. That's the important thing. And you're going to want to experience all that she has to share. So thank you so much, Amy, for being here. Now, I'm going to take a minute and just read through a little bit of your bio. And I never do that. I never really do that. But in your case, I think it's important. She is the CEO of Gutless and Grateful. Wait till you hear what gutless really means. She survived an unexpected blood clot and stomach rupture that left her in a coma for months, followed by 27 surgeries, organ failure, ongoing trauma, and PTSD over a period of 10 years. Now, she'll explain to you that that's an amazing detour, right? You're going to be incredibly inspired by her journey back to wholeness and a satisfying career using creativity as her lifeline. And that's why she wants to share that with you today. She gratefully discovered the upside of obstacles. She's been today a PTSD peer-to-peer specialist, an author, an artist, a TEDx and RAINN speaker, an award-winning actress, a playwright, and a mental health advocate. She is also the recipient of the Great Comebacks Award from Convatec. You can help me with that one. And her stories appeared on NBC's Today Show, CBS, Cosmopolitan, and over 70 online and print publications, including Huffington Post. I really have to pause and breathe for that one, Amy. All right, so I've given you the floor. I think you need to clarify a little bit more what Gutless and Grateful is all about. Go ahead.
Well, I, like everyone else, I was a pretty confident teen, I guess, and thought I had my life all planned out. I was a musical theater ham from the time I was born. So I thought that I was going to just study musical theater in college and go to Broadway, and that would be it. My senior year of high school, and I was perfectly healthy my entire life, but I developed a really severe blood clot. And everything escalated really quickly. My dad actually, he drove me to the ER just for an x-ray. And apparently I got sepsis. The blood clot had actually sat on the wrong kind of artery. And I just remember being in severe pain. And apparently if I'd gotten to the emergency room minutes later, the fluid would have gone to all of my internal organs, and I would have died. So I guess the surgeon cut into me, and my stomach literally hit the ceiling of the operating room. My stomach exploded because there was so much pressure. That's where the gutless comes in. And I was in a coma for months. And I had just gotten my college acceptance letters. So I woke up months later and talk about, waking up in a totally new reality. And then finally the doctors told me that I couldn't eat or drink, and they didn't know if I'd ever be able to again. So, I had no idea what was going on. And at first I was... Can I
interrupt you for just a second, Amy?
Sure.
I want to make sure that they understand this, because that wasn't in the description. You were not able to eat or drink, and maybe would never be able to.
Yes.
Is that right?
Yep. So,
what did that mean for your survival? Go ahead.
I had intravenous fluids that were just right into my veins. And so I was in the ICU for months. And I think I was, what kind of got me out of the victim mindset is I'm like a kind of type A overachiever, which I'm sure many of you are, even from high school. And I think, as a performer, all you want to do is you want to make your mark on the world. That's how you stay vital. And so I think my biggest fear, even from a coma, I just got in my college acceptance letters. I think I thought, oh my God, I'm not going to be vital anymore. I'm going to be a has-been at 18. So I think that kind of filled me with this kind of manic drive to just like stay, vital and real in any way I could. Like, the doctors expected me to be grateful that I was alive. But, when you live like a pretty like healthy, fine life, like, stop it. I want more than this. So I think that drive, and plus, I have three amazing brothers and great parents, and it's kind of an atypical situation, or just my crazy family, that they actually lived in the ICU with me and they didn't leave my side. So, which I know is very atypical, and I'm so grateful for my crazy family.
Oh,
But
how wonderful. They just pause and say gutless and grateful, start right there with the family that was there supporting you. How long were you actually just in the ICU?
I was there for a few months, enough that actually July, all my friends were graduating high school, but my headmaster actually came to the hospital and surprised me at the ICU with my own private graduation ceremony. And my dad drove back to Connecticut and he picked up 6 of my high school friends who I hadn't seen since before my coma. And, they brought my plaque and diploma and my gown. And I was just marching through the ICU with this crowd of like 30 people behind me because my mom brought all her friends. I had my own graduation ceremony, which is really kind of cool. So, by the time I left the hospital, I was feeling really good. They had like, healed up all the inflammation and things, but there was still one daunting problem that I had no stomach, and there was nothing that ever happened like me. So I was sent home like feeling great. I mean, they basically kicked me out of the hospital because I went through, I went from being one of the sickest kids in the ICU to like, once I learned how to walk again, I was like always running around, and they were just like, okay, we need your bed for someone that is actually sick. But
I'm going to jump in again. Okay, so they kicked you out of the hospital. How long were you totally in the hospital? Because you were in a coma for quite some time as well, right?
probably like almost a year, I think.
Oh my God.
But the problem was I was let go of the hospital because there was nothing else they could do for me. But they still couldn't figure out, how to get my digestive system again. So I was basically told, go home and like, do what you would do, be happy, but you can't eat or drink. So I was sent home on all of these IVs, which I think they only let us do because my dad's also a doctor, so he could, help run them and stuff. But it was worse than, because when you're in the hospital, you're like in kind of this safe nest, and there's something almost comforting about that. But, I was kind of unleashed and, around like water and food and, and everyone else living normal lives. And then I kind of had to face like, okay, I'm not sick, like I'm done, but like I'm not really a person because I can't even have an ice cube, and I don't know if that will ever happen. And, obviously my parents, because it would be the smart thing to do, they took me to see a therapist to deal with all this. And the therapist said, she can't eat or drink. Like, I can't make her sit in a room and talk about her feelings. It's like torture. I'd be hungry too. So when even the therapist is telling you, like, God, I feel bad for you, then, like, you really have to kind of rely on your own resources. So I think, again, like, you hear this, and yes, there's definitely always the temptation to just collapse in a pile and say, I can't do this anymore. And there was plenty of those feelings, but I think just the passion for what I always loved to do, which was performing. Like as a kid, I was just abnormally driven and focused, and also just the anxiety of I have too much in me to be forgotten. Like I remember thinking, like I need to remember that I exist. Like it was scary feeling like I just like fallen through the cracks, and especially seeing all my friends, on Facebook, going off to college. Now, Facebook was invented while I was in a coma, so that was a totally new reality to me too. But so I think, that just, I pushed myself. A month after being discharged from the hospital, I tried out for like a local musical, and even not being able to eat or drink, I ended up getting the lead. And that, and just I kept busy, I kept creating. I was so hungry that, I wanted an excuse to go grocery shopping like everyone else. So I ended up starting a chocolate business so I could just buy candy. And I like, actually like playing with food, helped me, because you don't really understand that like you become obsessed with what you don't have. So like I needed to play with candy. So I found ways of getting through. And that kind of brings me to like what I call now like my 4 like hardcore survival skills, which is the first one is hope. And hope isn't like this inspirational beam of light that just comes to you on a mountaintop. It's actually something you have to create. And so this sounds so insane when you say it, but when I go to the hospital, and doctors are just leaving this open expanse of time of, okay, just deal till we figure an answer. I like bought like a big whiteboard from Staples, and I wrote like 7 days till I can eat again, 6 days, 5 days. I made a fake countdown. And when it got to 0, I just, turned it back to 7. And I knew in my head, I didn't know, but you need to find creative ways, to get you from one day to the next. Because I knew, like, I don't care what it takes, but I gotta find some way to make it from day to day. My creativity.
Let's pause for a moment then,
Sure.
because you've just gone through a lot of information and
I know,
a huge amount of experience. No, don't ever apologize. Don't you dare apologize. But I think we'll get to the main point, is that we want to drive home to the viewers, and that is that you learned creative ways to uplift and inspire and have hope. So that's one of your 4 core values that you're talking about, or core hardcore skills, is how do you build hope out of what is a pretty hopeless situation? I mean, the fact that you couldn't eat or drink all this time, you were on intravenous only, and yet you said, I'm going to go back and apply for an acting job, and you got it. And then you went on to start a candy business just because you couldn't have food, but it was nice to at least think about it. Hey, you guys, think about this. How many want to lose some weight and could get the what I would say would be the indirect gratification of the food or the treat just by having it as an option as a business? I love that. Now that's really creative, Amy.
What I actually learned that from, when I was in the Child Life Center, at Columbia Presbyterian ICU, it's human nature that you become obsessed with what you can't have. Like all the kids who couldn't eat, they were always the ones who wanted to play with the toy kitchen in the Child Life Center. Think about when you're in a diet and you just want to look through recipes. So like instead of just like pretending that it wasn't on my mind, I had to be around it. So and the bigger thing about all this is, it's amazing what the human spirit is capable of when you're pushed, and that's true. I was just like kind of a typical teen like everyone else. I didn't know that I'd, ever have to deal with this. If you had told me that, I would have been like, yeah, right, I can't last that. But if I think more than like finding creative ways or finding hope, if you really have a passion to be here and your why, then like you'll figure out the how. That kind of comes in the moment. You can't plan that out. Like I would never have anticipated the hows I'd come up with. But I think if you're really, grounded in the why, the what drives you, that will kind of steer you where you need to go next. And that's actually takes me to like my second hardcore kind of skill, which is gratitude. And that didn't come till way, way late, like 5 years ago, actually. I guess I should say first that I ended up, to cope with not eating and drinking, I would, lock myself in my room for hours every day. And I would just journal and journal because I felt like I didn't exist in the world. And like, if I could get my thoughts out, even though half of them were just like rambling, free associations, I at least felt like I was marking this time, that was so crazy that you would have to really document to believe it had even happened. And so years later, I ended up taking all of that journaling and writing songs and putting together a one-woman musical about my life, Gutless and Grateful, which I premiered in 2012 just as like musical theater, because I really wanted to use my voice again and sing and say I was here. And that was like a huge risk because for almost a decade, I had just been dealing with this on my own and hadn't really talked about what had happened. But this was like kind of a go big or go home move that, I was like, you know what, I'm going to tell my story. And not only that, I'm going to do it for like New York theater critics and, and everything. And what I didn't realize was that for the first time, like my story felt relatable. I didn't realize that in putting together a musical about my life, not only was I just singing about what I had been through, I was actually making my own meaning. When you go through trauma, you don't necessarily look at all the events that happen as like meaningful things that make you who you are. But by the nature of creating a musical, you have to come up with, okay, where's the plot? Where's like the climax? What's the message? So I was actually reframing my narrative by putting that musical together. And I came away for the first time with actual meaning for the first time. And so because I had found the kind of universal message in my story, for the first time people could relate to my story. And that's actually what I consider what really allowed me to heal. That for the first time, like people could relate. Like I felt normal. I felt like back in the world. I felt like I was helping people. And so that inspired me, in 2012 to turn my show not just a show I was going to do again and again, but into a mental health and leadership program and storytelling workshop that I've been touring around the country for 5 years to colleges, to organizations, to conferences, to corporations, using my story as a way to help people, reframe their own narrative and tell their own stories, which has been amazing. But anyway, getting back to my survival skill, after I premiered.
Okay, I'm gonna interrupt again for a minute because I have to comment. It's just it is your story, it is your narrative, and it's a brilliant one. But I'm just going to interject here. It just shows what one person can be capable of doing if they take their mind off of food and drink. I mean, look how you redirected that energy in such a brilliant way with journaling. First of all, because you didn't feel like a human, you didn't feel like a person, because you weren't doing what people do, is drink and eat throughout the day because they need to for survival. And you turned that into a very creative resource that was your journaling that turned into a play that was actually a musical about your life, and suddenly it was relatable to people. And as you say, from there you've gone around the country touring.
You take it day to day though. Like when I was doing all that journaling, in my head I wasn't gonna be like, this is gonna be a musical that's going to tour the country. But it was just an in the moment, hope comes in baby steps. And I think that's what can intimidate people, that, they think of the whole road ahead of them. If I could not let myself do that. I would have just stopped right there. And that was, that's life or death circumstances for me. Because, my whole world had to be built upon the idea of don't think past tomorrow, just keep going, just one step at a time. And, that was really like life or death because, I didn't have an abdominal cavity. So if I would have just like fallen under pressure and just said like, I want a pretzel, that would have been the enemy. So it, I would have never thought that, years later I'd be singing about this craziness I was living through. But you know, you don't need to. You just gotta think of like one little thing. You know, I always say like, don't try to find the meaning right now. Just go. You know, and sometimes that's what you have to do. So anyway, in 2012, I premiered it. I was feeling on top of the world, like, oh my God, you know, I was just saying my story and I'm inspiring others. This is great. And then 4 days later, I had my first elective surgery. It was my 27th surgery, which was supposed to clear up like a few kind of leftover, you know, things from all of my surgical disasters. But that turned into an even bigger disaster. It turned into 3 emergency surgeries in 8 days. And I was set even further back. And I was back in the hospital for months. And again, I couldn't eat or drink anything. And it was kind of like the Twilight Zone again, because in my head, I'm like, oh my God, I'm back in the world I was literally just singing and dancing about. Like, how could this happen? You know, like, really, like, I thought I was done. And that happens in life. Like, we think we're finally past the hurdle. And then it's like, oh my God, how did we get back here? So I actually, again, because I needed to do something, because I always have to do something, I just started making lists. I made a list from A to Z, and I made myself just write one thing I was grateful for everything. And seriously, that wasn't to make me feel better or like less like, you know, antagonistic with the doctors. It was just like I was bored and I had to do something with my hands. I'm a busybody and I need to do that. But what I realized was as I made these lists every day, they were reminding me what my values were. You know, it wasn't just things I was grateful for. These like grateful items I was writing were coming from a larger place. And that's when I realized, oh, like when you know what you're grateful for, you know what you're about. Like your values, they're there whether you have a medical disaster or not. So that kind of empowered me with like the feeling that, okay, even though my life has just turned upside down right now, my values are still the same. And if I just think of those, then maybe like I can use those to get through this. And you know, as silly as that may seem, that actually really helped me. I remembered what was important to me, and it didn't change my medical circumstances, but again, it gave me some more hope and some more ideas to creatively make it through. Because I think the bigger message is that everything eventually really does pass, but it's when we can't hold on long enough that we don't get to see that. So our job is just to come up with little in-the-minute things, like even if it's as silly as a stupid grateful list, which I still have. I still have them from the hospital, and I can remember as I'm writing them thinking this is so useless. But now, like I'm so far removed from that situation, and those grateful lists did their job because they got me, you know, enough days past that where finally, you know, I healed. And I can eat and drink. I always forget to mention that. So anyway, that's gratitude.
Okay, I have to jump in again. You forgot to mention that now you can eat or drink because it's not as big a deal, is it? I mean, it is, but it isn't. You see what I'm saying? Because you learn the coping mechanisms and the creativity and the hope that got you through every moment, each and every moment.
Can you see me?
I can hear you. Hang on, keep talking. Let's see if we can hear you still.
No, it's not the connection. Like literally the lights went out in my house.
Oh, okay. You guys all have to understand what's going on here. And this is to me an amazing reflection of Amy as a person. Yes. This is a reflection of Amy as a person.
Wait, can you see
and all that she's creatively figured out to do. She is there in the background right now, but they're having a terrible windstorm. And the lights are going on and off, and she couldn't get on a traditional computer. So the only way she's been able to do this interview is with a phone. So Amy, I'm not kidding. You're just a reflection of all that you have learned in life and how to creatively solve problems. So go ahead and talk about your third core.
Okay, first of all, can you see the video? Because it's fast.
Yes, I can.
Oh, great. Okay. Thank you, though, for the kind words. So creativity. So this happened. I'm going to backtrack now, back to my 13th surgery. So this was this was the magic surgery that was supposed to, finally be able to make me eat and drink again. Because what took so long to finally get my digestive system back is literally because nothing had ever happened like this. We had to find a surgeon that had some crazy idea, and we couldn't. It's not like you can like put a call for speakers, like, hey, seeking a surgeon that can tamper with all this crazy stuff. So my dad actually called the head of NIH, and they told him, you need a surgeon. You need a guy that's going to do all the cases that no one else wants. And so we found him, and it was a 19-hour surgery that took 3 shifts of nurses and doctors, and we thought that was done. And I took my first bite of food on my 21st birthday, and I thought I was good. And then I went to California because I was going to star in a film that never got made. And a week later, my wound literally exploded. And I had to be air-vaxxed from California back to Connecticut in Yale Hospital. And I was back in the hospital. Certain doctors had no answers. I was so frustrated and angry and scared to see that doctors just didn't know what to do with me. And so I was a performing artist, but I never did like art, like painting. But my mom, because she's a key player in my story, because she's the eternal optimist. She started bringing like canvases, and art supplies, cheap art supplies to the hospital. Because also when my mom doesn't know what to do, she just buys things. And that's why every like hospital we stayed at would always become like a stockpile of like things from the gift shop and magazines and all that. And she lives with me, in the ICU. So she's pretty amazing too. So I resisted that for a really long time because, I was at the point where, yeah, I'm a fighter, but I'm really pissed off at the world right now. And we all have those times where we just like we don't want to, we just can't. But like, I think one morning, I still remember I was just pushed to like my limit. I just felt like I had no hope at all. And I didn't know what to do anymore. And so like, I went for the paintbrush just because it was there. And I remember holding it and I was like shaking. And I remember thinking like, I have no idea what I'm doing or what I'm feeling. But whatever I'm feeling, I'm just going to put onto this brush. And like, I pressed the canvas so hard, and I remember painting like a tear, just the shape of a blue tear, and it felt really good, and I didn't know why. And I realized like it was a way I could kind of get out my feelings, but in a way that wasn't scary for me. And somehow in just painting those tears, like I was finding a way to be with those like scary feelings, but in a way that transformed them. And what it turned into is like one of my signature paintings, which is basically a picture of a big, happy, singing tree. And it turned into this beautiful, happy painting that now I sell like posters and prints of. A little plug for me too. But what people always remark is like, wow, that's such a happy painting. And it's so funny for me because it came from such a time of hardship. And that's how creativity became like my third skill, because if we find any way to express what we're feeling that's not words, because sometimes words can lock us because we start thinking about it, and that can make us anxious. But whether it's do a dance, like just scribble, cook a meal, creativity comes in all kinds of shapes and sizes, but it's a way to transform whatever we're feeling it into something else without having to bother with words. Because sometimes really words can just like scare us. So yeah, that's number 3. And my last one is.
I'm going to jump in again and just say, so through your feelings, you expressed emotion on the canvas and actually felt that was even a more complete expression of emotions than you can often come up with in words, which I think is really important.
Think about it. Like if you feel something really like heavily, and sometimes you just can't say it. And when you can't say it, but then you don't have any other way of getting it out, feel that like it can get locked in your chest. It can cause chronic pain. Think about what it's like to not be able to get something out just because we don't always have the words. But the good part is that you don't need to always have the words. You just need to find some way of using that energy in a way that it can transform. So I
Yeah,
mean,
that's brilliant because you've just really hit on something I think is important. The reason I interject the way I do, Amy, is because I think it's an important point to drive home for the
yeah,
viewer and for myself. Believe me, I'm taking this all in as well. But what you just said in words is brilliant because you're saying is sometimes people say there are no words. I can't find the words for what I'm experiencing. But what you just said is I found another creative outlet for it so that it didn't get bottled up inside me in a way that would just be detrimental to my health. That's
the
so
most
important.
important thing is you can't let it get bottled up. You just can't.
Yeah.
On a side note, I mean, it's not more than a side note, but right before my coma, I was sexually abused by my voice teacher. And that I kept that in for months. I didn't have the words at all. And then I didn't tell my mom until 2 weeks before my coma. And so we never really had time to process that, or I didn't. So, when I finally started to express myself, suddenly I was able to process all these feelings that I'd repressed from my abuse before, that I would have never been able to put into words because some of it I couldn't even remember. So, and it was a lot of healing. I'm not going to minimize that. It was a lot of healing I had to do between the medical abuse and the sexual abuse and trying to figure out who I was now. And art was really a way that, I mean, if you just even say all that, it just sounds like a pile of words. Like, where do you even start? But that's why art was just like a good way, especially for thinking people. People that just love thinking, like me, like I'm very in my thoughts. And what I learned after I started studying trauma and psychology is trauma, cannot be healed through words because it's something in our bodies. It's some kind of, hit that comes to our bodies. So we need to use our bodies to heal too. So creativity is just a great way to just bypass your thoughts. Because, I think we all know when our thoughts can actually kind of sabotage us. Just like you think you can't do something, and that thought is powerful. So my last one is stories, and I'm going to use my mom again, who can be so optimistic that sometimes I just want to like smack her. But when I was coming out of the coma, she would read me all of these inspirational autobiographies of like people that had almost died and overcome things. And I was just coming out of my coma and I couldn't even talk. I was still on the ventilator. I was still trying to figure out what the heck was happening. So the last thing I wanted to do was, hear these stories of these comeback people. So I really did not appreciate that. But years later, as I started getting better, I started to recall those stories in different ways. And I was able to actually visualize myself in their shoes. And I realized like, wow, maybe that could be me. And suddenly like those stories were now like fuel that empowered me with hope. So that's why I tell people, read as many stories as you can. Hear stories, watch them, listen to people. Because even if you feel like you can't relate to them now, you're actually building up your story inventory and you're planting the seeds that you'll be able to recall those stories when you're at that point. And they'll actually be able to be real like role models for you to follow. So I just think stories are so important. I gave a TED Talk last year, and I'm giving another TEDx talk in actually 10 days. Oh my God, in Virginia, where I'm going to be talking about how we can use the archetypal hero's journey to make healing from trauma kind of like an adventure. And the archetypal hero's journey is a storyline that you'll see in Star Wars and fairy tales, in the stories all around us. About the journey of a hero. And the more we kind of cement that pattern in our head, that a hero can be snatched from their everyday lives and have to go through all these trials and adversity and come back transformed, I think it empowers us that with the belief that that can be us too. So I just think, stories are so important and they build empathy. A lot of, barriers to healing come from the idea that, oh, no one can relate to my story. That's how mental health stigma comes around. That's how we feel like isolated or that we're not like anyone else. That's why telling my story in my one woman musical was so therapeutic for me. So I think we need to start talking. One of the biggest things I hear from people is, oh my God, like my story's not worth sharing. That's not true because you never know who your story may affect. So yeah.
Oh boy, what a bundle of wonderful thoughts that you have really taken your experience and wrapped it into what I would call, you call them hardcore skills. I'd call them gifts. I mean, really what you have pulled together is like a beautiful cornucopia of gifts.
The presentation that I toured at conferences is called Post-Traumatic Gifts.
Post-traumatic gift. Well, then I tuned right into that. Okay, well, I love what you're sharing. There's so much more you could share. We do want to make sure we get onto the last topic for a couple minutes and then let people know your gift, because I want people to be able to get more of you, so to speak, get in touch with you and the brilliance that you're sharing today. So let's talk about how you took stories and you have now sort of opened that into working with Detours. Detours and how to use those to achieve lofty goals. Let's talk about that for a few minutes.
Yes, so my TED Talk last year was about detours, and I call myself a detourist. Hey, this was something in life that I didn't expect. It was a detour. And that's not to minimize what I went through, but it's also to not make myself feel like I'm a martyr or that my struggle was so much harder than everyone else. And I think if we all look at it like that, like our detours are actually things that we all have in life, we can start relating to each other. Because I think we should find our uniqueness in what we do with adversity rather than what our actual adversity is. I think that's what makes us feel victimized. Like, oh, no one understands this. But we're stronger in numbers. So that's why I created it. It started with a hashtag, Love My Detour. And now it's I also have a weekly column on my blog I call it Why Not Wednesday, where anyone can write in about any detour in their life and somehow how it's made them who they are today. It doesn't have to be a big, huge trauma. It could even be a good detour. Like, oh, I didn't expect to meet this person and it led to my marriage, But I've collected over 100 stories and you should read a lot of them because they're all so different. And it shows that, no matter how much we think people can't relate to us, we really can, because we all face the same feelings when we have a detour in life. We all want to pretend like it's not happening. We all have uncertainty. We all have anger about it. And the good part is when we can relate to that, we can also look to each other to see what other people do with their detour. So, I have, a whole kind of online community for that. And I also lead kind of detour workshops, which I've led for kids, I've led for college age, I've led for, executive leaders, in conferences, because the truth is, I'll walk into a room of, suits and, and people that are just not knowing what a detour is, and a room will just melt when I start talking about it. And some of you have people sharing things that they would never share because a detour brings this kind of commonality where we're all on the same playing ground. And it makes us, really kind of empathize. And from empathy, we can build like an amazing, team, an amazing organization. We can get our lives together, So I'm leading these workshops all over the country and presentations and performing my show. As a way to kind of promote the idea of detours. And I never would have expected that this would all come from just a detour in my own life.
A very significant detour. I mean, some of us get rattled when we have a detour that takes us a few miles out of the way. I'd say yours sort of took you a continent out of the way. And
I do too. And that's the joy of it. Like now, you know, I can get like stressed out about like being in traffic, and that's like, there's the kind of nice thing about that, you know, that I can do that too. It's like, oh wow, I remember when there were a lot bigger things to think about.
Exactly. And then, you know, it really just puts it all into perspective. But I love the way you are framing detours. You're framing them as a way to realize that you can really connect with other people who understand, who've experienced something similar. So as you say, you're gaining that empathy, you're growing community around it. And so it's a great way to bring people together. And so
Yeah.
you really have taken from your story to the detours, they've melded together in a way that's really offering, I would think, real community service. So we should, none of us undervalue the 1.5 detours we've had versus the detour you had, which was a continent. And now you are, I would say, traveling a continent, even though your detour was like a continent. You're traveling it. Isn't that interesting?
And it is truly a one-woman show, meaning I don't know how I do it, to be honest, but I do everything myself. I do the booking, I do the publicity, I do everything, which is a call out to anyone else that, hey, you want me to come to you? I travel, just send me a note. I'm filling out my schedule for next year. And I might be going to Reno next year. I'm not sure.
Definitely let me know. Maybe you will be.
Yeah, if I get some more people from your area, I will. But I actually did a solo festival in Florida where an amazing person was there and saw my show and would like to bring me down there. But yeah, I'm looking to go all over. So hit me up with a note.
So you've just gotten an open invitation, those of you viewing now and in replay, that Amy is traveling the continent. And she is sharing her detour, her story, and helping other people understand. She's sharing her play. She's doing her one-woman play, which is wonderful. Amy, I could keep you on here for hours, but you just look like you're shivering there. And I know it's because you're holding the phone. Again, for those of you people who just popped in, she's holding the phone for the
I got to apologize. I look like ghostly. I'm also getting over bronchitis.
Oh gosh, you are something else. Well, listen, we need to wrap this up, but you do have a gift for everyone. I'm going to put the gift information up, both posted on the comment section. I'll also put it up here now so you can see it. And while I have it posted, tell them a little bit about what they can expect.
Okay, so there's 2 things. Or did I just give you one thing? Is a free creativity guide, and that's really kind of resources I learned on my own journey, that, you know, to really help you find your creative side. And I do creative coaching as well. And then my next one is a free guide to kind of public speaking and getting a TEDx talk. It's a big free ebook on tips that help me, and I offer coaching on that as well. So sign up, and again, I offer, you know, private coaching on both, and also tell me what you think of the books.
Oh, here I've been talking away and no one's hearing me. Okay, thank you all so much for being here. I haven't seen comments today. You've been quiet, but I think you've been really soaking in, taking in Amy's message. And it's really one of the most inspirational messages I've had the honor to share.
Oh, thank you.
And I'm just so appreciative that you did the creative work that was necessary. I kept saying, come on, let's try it. We can do this despite the storm that's knocking off your internet and taking the power away. And I guess that's a good statement for cellular, that it can hang in there through.
I guess so. The wonders of technology.
Yes, definitely. Well, again, Amy, I want to thank you, and I want to thank all of you who are here live today. And again, those of you who catch us in replay, I'm so glad you get to hear Amy and hear her story and hear how she's transformed it into a one-woman show, and she's traveling the country, and she might be able to come where you are. If you want to bring her message about how to love your detour to your part of the country, you certainly can contact her. And all you need to do that is to do that right through getting her gift. To get her gift, all you have to do is go to hmtips.com/Amy Gift, hmtips.com/Amy Gift, and that will get you in touch with her, and you'll be able to follow what she's doing. Again, Amy, I want to thank you so very much for being here.
Thank you.
And stay warm.
I'll try.
And just have a wonderful rest of the day. Thanks again, everybody. Take care now.
Bye. Bye.
Bye-bye now.